This week, portion called Shlach-Lecha. Shlach in Hebrew means send. The main idea we're going to talk about, how can one moment turn into a process of 40 years? And how can a 40-year process shrink into one moment? At the soul level, each one of us is coming for a very specific reasons and have a very specific journey to go through throughout life. One of the analogies Karen Berg, my teacher, gave is that when you look at the journey of your life, it can be compared to a puzzle picture with thousands of pieces. And it is our job throughout this lifetime to find a way to put together all of those pieces, to assemble the pieces of this puzzle and to make it whole again. Before our soul is coming down into this world, the Kabbalah say that our soul is being shown the particular puzzle in its completion, the way that the entire journey is supposed to end, in the most positive way of ending it, which is, as we mentioned, achieving this wholeness. However, once we are born into this world, once our soul manifests into this physical reality, we can no longer see our soul pieces in their assembled form, and all what we see, it's only fragments. For most of us, it feels that we're walking through kind of life blindly. How can I know how to bring all of those different broken pieces together back into wholeness? So I want you to imagine a video game. How many of you liked video games? How many of you liked, as a kid, video games? What happened to you guys? There are some things more important today in life. It's not really about the video game, right? It's about having fun. How many of you think about having fun in life? It's important. How many of you do something about it? So I'm just getting the example of the video game just for the fun, okay? So think about this video game that you need to go through 10 levels, right? There are 10 levels that you need to pass in order to reach the ultimate destination, whatever it is. 10 levels that you need to pass in order to get there. And in each level, before you enter, there is this entry point, right? And before you enter, before you pass into that next level, there is a lesson that you need to receive. There is a transformation that you need to complete. The question is, how long will it take me to get the lesson? This, how long it will take me to move to the next phase. How long will it take me to complete this unique transformation that my process is placing me in this phase of life to go through? How long will it take me to achieve this unique transformation? This will be how long it will take me to experience the breakthrough and to move to the next level. Some of the times, it can take you one moment, and as we're going to see with the story that is being told in this portion, and going to decode the story, one moment can turn into 40 years. One moment, we could just do the right thing. We could get the lesson, move to the next phase. We could make this transformation. We could overcome certain challenge, and it would move our life to a whole different way of living life, a whole different experience that we don't need no longer the opportunities, those opportunities, again experiencing the same patterns again and again and again and again. You got the lesson, you move to the next phase. How one moment can turn into 40 years, how 40 years can be shrinked into one moment. When we open the portion of this week, which is in the book of Numbers, this is, by the way, the Kabbalistic Bible that is recommended to any of us to go through before, again, coming to the session, just to get familiar with the story of the week. Talks about Moses receives a call from the Creator to send As we said, Shlach means send in Hebrew, to send the head of the 12 tribes to scout the land of Israel. So we need to realize what's going on, right? The Israelites left Egypt, one destination, the land of Israel. They are just in the entry point to the land. And Moses is sending the head of the 12 tribes to scout the land. Those head of the tribes were the most elevated individuals in that generation. 10 of them coming in and out with negative reports regarding the land. 2 of them, Caleb and Joshua, coming in with positive reports. What the 10 says is that the land is amazing actually, but there are giants in the land, and there are very powerful nations in the land, and it's not the right timing to enter the land. Joshua and Caleb telling Moses and the people, this is our moment. We should enter. It's the right timing. As we know, the story is the code for the energy that we can join Awaken in this week. So in order to start to decode that energy, we want to go to the Zohar. Verse number 30. The Zohar writes, I'm reading first of all in Aramaic. Again, every week I'm trying to remind all of us, the reading in Aramaic is one of the most powerful tools in Kabbalah that we use to awaken our soul in a whole different level. So, obviously most of us don't speak Aramaic. While I'm reading, you can scan with me, or you can close your eyes and just meditate to awaken that energy within you that we're going to talk about throughout the session. וישלח אותם משה וגומר, כולם אנשים. כולם זכאים אבו וראשי די ישראל אבו, אבל אינון דיברו לגרימיו, היית בישה. המאי נטלה אית אדם, אלא אמרו, יעלון ישראל להרעה, התעבר ענן מלהבי ראשין, ובני משה ראשין אחרנין דעה ענן זקינן במדברה למהבי ראשין, אבל בהרעה לנזקי, ועל דנטלה אית בישה לגרמיו, מיתו אינון וכל אינון דנטלן מיליו. The Zohar writes, and Moses sent them, all those men, the 12 head of the tribes, meaning that all were righteous and chief of Israel. As we mentioned, all of those 12 people weren't just chosen by a chance, they were the most powerful in a spiritual level among all the people of Israel. However, they took a bad counsel for themselves. Why did they take this counsel? It was because they thought if Israel, if the people entered the land, they thought we would be removed as chiefs, and Moses would appoint other chiefs. Since we deserved to be chiefs only in the desert, in the land we would not deserve to be chiefs. Due to having taken bad counsel for themselves, they died, as did all those accepted their counsel. What's going on? What does the Zohar speaks about? What is that power that we want to awaken in this week? This is one of the most simple and powerful ideas and examples of how consciousness is everything. Two people can take the same action. The motivation behind the action might be different. What will determine the final outcome? It will not be the action of itself. It will be the intention behind that action. We live in a world that we constantly strive to achieve more, which is amazing. However, achieving more for most of us is being measured by what we see. So we try to figure out what will be the best actions to take in order to achieve the desirable outcomes in our life, which makes sense. Without actions, nothing will happen, obviously. We live in a world of action. This world called Malchut. Without taking an action, nothing will happen. So this goes without saying. So what is the entire spiritual process or journey of elevation is about? Not about elevating the actions in our life, which eventually important as well. But we can go ahead and find ways to elevate, meaning doing more actions. What more can I do? Meanwhile, if we would take a step back just to revisit the actions that we already take and get into what are the drives, the intentions behind those actions, if you are capable to elevate the intention, the same action not only will show you more results, but we start to direct you into the right results. How many times it happened that we make so much effort and in the end we do have results, but not the desirable results? What is the guide into what is truly meant to be for me? It will not be the actions. It will be the intentions behind the actions. We talk about the head of the tribes getting to scout the land of Israel, to come back to confirm that it is the right timing. Didn't Moses know if it is the right timing or no? Throughout the entire Bible, Moses has direct communication line with the Creator. Why Moses needs to have people coming in and out and giving him a report? From the second Moses got into his role as the leader, it was guided by the Creator. Moses knew everything is ready in the land. What did Moses wanted to see? If the consciousness of the people is ready for that. If the consciousness of the people is ready for all that energy that is waiting for them in their final destination. Getting into the final outcome while you are not fully ready for it, probably you will not be able to hold on to the energy in it. There can be the perfect relationship waiting for you, but you are not ready for it. The universe will help you not to get too early into things. How many of our frustration is because I want it to be quicker, right? If we would know what it means, getting quicker into the desirable outcome without being ready for it, it will be the same like you build a company of multi-billion dollar and you're handing it to a kid 7 years old. Would you do something like that? Why not? Simply because the kid is not ready for it. It's not because you don't want. The light wants to give each one of us the final desirable outcomes right now. But when we feel frustration because I want it to be faster, we should take a step back. Also, the Creator wants it to be faster, but there's something that is not ready inside of me. So what is the point that it will manifest for me? Because when it comes in times I'm not ready, probably I'm going to lose it. If you enter into a relationship while you are not ready, and all what you do, you judge your partner from morning till night, even if they are your soulmate, you'll not be able to maintain the relationship. Does it make sense? If you work on yourself a little bit more, and you elevate to a place of not judging completely, but you are capable to less judging other people, and more seeing the good in them, you are more ready. You want things to happen when you are ready. At the same time, you want things to happen right now. So what right needs to happen? Right now, I want to be ready. What is the lesson that I need to get? I want to change now. I want to transform now. I want to get the life lesson now. If I will become ready now, the universe is ready for me. Before I walk up, the universe is ready for me. All the gifts are ready for me. The Zohar is starting directing us. What made those 10 giants, spiritual giants, eventually to lose their position? It's not that they came back from the land of Israel and they said that there are giants in the land and it is scary. If they would come with a negative report because they honestly believed it is not the right time for the sake of everyone, if their intention would be seeing the good for everyone and not for themselves, they would continue to be the head of the tribes. But what happened? As the Zohar mentioned, they entered into the land of Israel. They could see how amazing and powerful the land is. It says that they saw flow of milk and honey, which is a code for the level of abundance that was in the land of Israel. But the moment they started to focus on the giants and the strong nations, and they start to bring the fear into the mind of the people, while the one motivation behind what they say is not to protect them from the giants. It's from the fear of losing their position. What happens when the motivation behind what we do is the fear of losing? You're in a relationship and you're afraid to lose your partner. So because of the fear, you want to do more for them. So you try to please them. Guaranteed, you already lost the relationship. It is just a matter of time and more pain that you will experience. If the motivation behind what I do is attached to the fear of losing, I have already lost. To overcome our fears, it is a big task. It's a big task. It is not easy just understanding that we do need to look into the motivation behind the things that we do and to recognize if and what are the fears that are still attached to my actions, to my decisions. If I work in a company and what keeps me working in the company is the fear that if I would not work in the company, I will not find another job, guaranteed you have miserable life. You cannot go to your job happy because all the base behind is fear. How can you enjoy what do you do? By changing what you do? No. Sometimes it's yes, but it is not the answer. It's by changing your intention behind what you do. If you look deep inside of yourself and you start to find in what places in my life there are still fears attached to the things that I do, this is the key. This is exactly what we need to transform in order to achieve a higher level of freedom in our lives. In order to pass to the next level in that game of the 10 levels. This is the entry point. And this entry point of this week was the entry point to the final destination. It wasn't one of the 10, it was the 10th one. So we know, as you're getting closer and closer to the final place of what is truly waiting for you, the challenge, what do you think? Will be bigger or smaller? Of course bigger. If you're already there in the final entry point, it means that you already overcame many of the challenges. It means that you're already a spiritual being. It means that you're already transformed in so many ways and levels. It means that you have done so much good in the process. Those 10 head of the tribe, they saw the miracles, right? The splitting of the Red Sea, the manna, the food comes from the sky. The revelation on Mount Sinai, they saw all of those amazing, powerful things. And they were guiding the people all along the way to keep the right mindset, not to fall into doubt, not to fall into fears, not to fall into insecurities, not to fall into negativity. They were the one to guide everyone. If they would pass the test, it means that the entire collective people are ready for it. They represented the collective. But this was their responsibility. Each one of us have responsibility. The test that we are going through right now in the phase of the game of our own life, it is not just for us to pass the test, to recognize the unique transformation, to overcome our fear. You passing the test, it needs to become clear in your mind. Will open the gate for another 100 people to pass their tests. We all have soul responsibilities over 100 people. As Rabbi Isaac Luria explains that there are groups of souls. When you pass a test, you become a channel to open up the gate for many more. One moment that they could pass the test and enter to the land, this was the moment when God came and says, listen, Moses, your people are not ready. They would need to go around the desert for 40 years. They already were in their destination. So they started to circle the desert for 40 years. Can you imagine? Didn't they know that this is the entry point to the land of Israel? There wasn't more space, physical space to walk, so they had to go in circles. How many times we feel we go in circles in life? And you know where is the entry point? Just next to you. And those 40 years can be shrinked into one moment. But what is the lesson for you? What is the lesson for me? What is the lesson that I'm missing? That this is the whole circling about. Why it takes so much time? Because there is something inside of me doesn't want to understand. Something in me still blaming other people. Something in me doesn't want to take responsibility. Something in me doesn't want to change. Something in me justify my reactivity. Something in me justify the judgment I have about others. Something in me justify the pride. Something in me justify my anger. How many times we get into being angry and something inside of us just justify this anger? How many of us? Now we all know anger is not good for us, right? But we still justify. How long will it take me to create a breakthrough? It is how long I'm going to stop to justify my attachment to certain negativities and certain fears. Not easy. Not easy. But at the same time, it doesn't have to take 40 years. So what is it that we need to do? What is it that we need to do? For how many of you it is clear, everything we spoke about to this point? Okay, I will give you 3 minutes, and those of you who join us from home, if you have someone next to you, so you can do the same. If not, 3 minutes, we'll get back into the session. Share in your own words the main insight that you received to this point before we getting into the practical applications. Please, 3 minutes. The Rav once said, Rav Berg, my teacher, said that not every moment of our day, of our journey, is an opportunity to go in the direction of working on our tikkun, of our correction. Not every moment in the process will take you to the next phase in your game. There will be specific points of entry. In those moments, the universe presents a very unique opportunity, and as we said, it takes first of all to recognize the opportunity itself. The head of the tribes could recognize the opportunity. However, as the Zohar says, they allowed their fear. And specifically, we don't talk about the general fear, we talk about the fear of losing their position. They were afraid that they're going to lose something if they will come with a positive report and all the people will enter to the land. The real moments of those entry points will be those moments that something will be tested. Something in us will be tested. Any of us who is involved in the spiritual work at least feels that how can I guarantee that the way I make decisions in the moment that the test will come will be from the right place? How can I guarantee that I will have the strength to overcome my fear of losing? How can I guarantee? I can understand the idea, and I don't want to make any choices in my life not regarding relationships. Think about being in a relationship and not being afraid of losing it. You are there because you really want to be there, not because you try to please anybody. So if you don't please them enough, they will walk away. If they would walk away because you don't please them, let them go away. But if you're afraid they will go away, everything will be fear-based of I might lose the relationship. So we all have the test that we need to go through. At the moment that for them it wasn't a relationship, for them it was a position. Think about you work again in a place and you putting so much energy in what you do, and everyone appreciates what you do. You get even the bonus because of the work you do. But you do because you're afraid that if you will not do, you will not have a job. Versus you do because you feel the love for what you do, and you do want to add more value, so you look for more ways to do more. Not because you're afraid, but because you want. And if it is not for me, I'm not afraid of losing it. Very high level of consciousness. Again, this is the final test for them. We need to understand. It's not like just another test. Very challenging kind of phase to go through in our own journey, obviously. So when we reach a point, which will be an entry point, if it is the 10th one, just before entering to the next phase, probably it will present itself as this level of a test, which is very challenging. So back to the question, how can I know that when I will be there, I will have the strength to operate and to make decisions that come from the right place and not from a place of fear? How can I guarantee? None of us can guarantee. If I would say I can guarantee I will do it, for sure there's so much pride attached to the way I think. How can I know that I can overcome the test? I don't know. This is why Caleb and Joshua, before they entered to the land, one of them received additional blessing, which means infusion of energy from Moses. And the second one, before starting scouting the land, the first thing he did, Caleb, was to go to visit the gravesite of Abraham the patriarch. He knew what we teach. Visiting gravesites of righteous people is one of the forms of meditations and connections to connect with the strength of those souls. He knew he will need additional strength. If you're going to the next test and you don't feel that you will need additional strength, probably you're going to fail. If you're so certain that you're so powerful to pass the test, 99% you're not going to pass it. How can we pass or have more chance to pass the test? So obviously we need to prepare ourselves. We cannot just show up to the test or wait for the test to show up and hope, that I will make the choices from the right place and overcome my fears of losing something. We cannot hope for that. The spiritual work is not based on hoping. We need to prepare ourselves for that. How do we start preparing ourselves? First step. Let me guide you, okay? First step. First step, as many times again my teacher Rav Berg would say, question everything. We're too afraid to question. Is this relationship really good for me or not? Is this job is really what I need to do? Is this project is really the project I need to get into? We are too afraid of not having, so we get whatever it is. Why to question? Why to question? There is so much power in questioning everything. How do you question in a spiritual way? Questioning in a spiritual way, starting with self-reflection. Reflection that needs to happen every day of your life. Not once a week, not once a month, not before the beginning of the new year, the times that most of people, getting into resolutions and no. Spiritually, every day, getting into a place, it can be 5 minutes of a day, reflecting. And what do you want to do in this self-reflection? You want to question. Before overcoming deeper fears, I need to overcome the fear of questioning things in life. Question from a healthy place. Not from a place of, you don't want something in your life. No, question. What do you want to question in this self-reflection process? You want to reflect over your assumption. You want to reflect over your habits. Over the things that seem to be so natural and normal for you, that they became so robotic in your life, that you don't question anymore, because this is already part of what you do. This is part of the way that you know yourself. And this self-reflection, you want to ask yourself whether those assumptions and those habits in your life are useful in taking you to your destination, into your next phase. So you have to do the hard work of questioning some of your most deeply beliefs that seem to be so much, this is who I am. Why should I question it? So in the first step, you want first of all to recognize the habits that you have. You want to recognize the assumptions that you have. And I will give you an example. The assumption that the head of the tribes had was if they will come with a positive report, they will lose their status. It was an assumption. There are assumptions inside of each one of us within our belief system that, you know what, if I'll speak up, I might lose a friend or a status. There might be an assumption for some of us that assuming that if I will make a commitment with this relationship, I might lose another better relationship in my life. So you're assuming it. And there is a point that you stop even recognizing your assumption. It is just like a pattern. You might have assumption that, if I will choose going in this direction, I might lose what is waiting for me there. So I will not take this direction because I'm afraid of losing what is there. Those assumptions, when you look deep into yourself, again, it takes a deep work, but this is the hard work that we need to do in order to prepare ourselves for passing the test eventually. The reflection should be over your assumption. We're all assuming that if we will go to the right, we'll lose the left. If I'll speak up, something bad will happen. If I will not do this, this will happen. And all attached to a fear that I might lose something. This week is the week that you want to get deeper into recognizing, reflecting over your assumption. What does your mind tell you? How those assumptions are attached to fears of losing something. Does that make sense to everyone? How many of you can recognize at least one thing in your life? As far as your beliefs, as far as your own assumptions, as far as the natural way that you think, that makes you take a step or not take a step because something in you has this assumption that if I'll do it, I might lose. And not because something in you tells you if I will do it, it will be the wrong thing to do, so don't do it. But I'm just afraid of losing something. And as we mentioned, when it is attached to the fear of losing, we've already lost. If I will not give more energy to this relationship with this potential client in the business, he might leave me. So you chase after the client just to give them more and more and more and more and more. And guaranteed, you already lost them. You don't see it. It will take 2 years, but you lost them. You don't chase after them because you want to add value into their life. You chase after them because you're afraid of losing them. You have already lost. It will just a matter of time, how long in the process it will take you to realize that they already chose not to be with you as a client. And this one will happen. Because if the drive behind what we do is that fear of losing, remember we have already lost. So what can we do? Get deeper into reflecting, into your own assumption. If I'll not give more, they will not like me. Before realizing how to change this fear and intention, I will tell you, first of all, stop giving. See what will happen. How many of them will stay around you? How many of them will check on you? How many of the things in life are real? How many of the things in life are not? In the spiritual journey, we want to climb into a place of inviting what truly belongs to us. And as long it is attached to fear of losing, we're making the process longer. So the first step is get deeper into recognizing those assumptions that your mind has. It's not you, by the way. It's not your soul. It's your mind. It's based on your correction. Second step. After you recognize those assumptions, actively look for facts that run counter to the assumption that you have. What will be the counter for the assumption that the head of the tribes had? They would need to tell themselves, my assumption that if I'm going to let the people get into the land of Israel, I'm going to lose my position. Counter. If I'm going to allow them to get into the land of Israel, I'm going to elevate to a higher place. I might lose being the leader, but maybe I have another role. I want to reach the role that's meant to be for me. I don't want to just hold on to something that seems to be good right now because it might be something much better than that. Counter. There is no lose. If I lose my position and the consciousness is in the right place, it is because there is something better for me. If you lose the relationship, it is because there is something better for you, meaning you deserve more. What is the counter? You deserve more. To know, not from ego level, but from the light point of view, there is much more for you. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. You'll not get the job. Don't be afraid. If the relationship is not the right one for you, don't be afraid. Why? Not because you don't want a relationship, because you know there is a better one for you. More we hold on to the things that they are wrong, more and longer the time, moment becomes 40 years. But if I recognize, you know what, my assumption that if I let go of this relationship, I will not have any relation, nobody will love me, I will be alone, I don't like to be alone. So you know what, whoever is the person, it's okay, just not to feel alone. Don't be afraid, because there is something better for you. And if this is the right thing for you, when you let go of the fear, it will become the real thing for you. So in the next step, you want again to bring into your mind the opposite scenario of reality. What will happen if you not be afraid? What will happen if you let go of this fear? What will happen if you not have what currently you have that makes you feel safe? What will happen? Try to run the different movies in your mind. Get yourself to see that there is something much bigger than what you see at the moment that gives you some feeling of being safe. Get yourself to enter into something much larger than what it is right now. And it might be that through this process you will recognize that what you have right now, it is the right thing for you. But you know what? There is a gain. You'll not be afraid. You choose it because you want it, not you because you're afraid of losing it. The third step, which is probably the more challenging one, after you recognize your assumptions, after you recognize the fears that attach to decisions in your life, after you run in your mind the different scenarios in the opposite direction, how positive and amazing things will come out if, I will lose whatever it is right now. The third step, and by the way, this process is very important. Don't go through this process by yourself. Make sure that you have a friend that helping you to balance, because it's easy to go out of balance in the thoughts, in the feelings, So make sure that there is somebody who loves you and cares for you, and you have good relationship with them that you can share with them, and they can give you perspective. Make sure that you're open for their perspective, right? But in the third phase, after you're going through the entire process, bring one thing into practice. Bring one thing into application in the process of your choices in your life. In the third step, you need to completely go out of your own head with the old belief system and assumptions of the fear of losing something, and test one new idea. What will happen? God knows, I don't know. But you will place yourself in the direction, in a pathway, at least to be open to see what really meant to be for you. And if being at the head of the tribe is not meant to be for you while you're getting into the land of Israel, so let go of it. Why do you need this title? There is something else you need to do. Do you want to be the head of the tribe, or do you want to do what you meant to do? And we need to realize that in each phase in our life, there are different roles that we're here to play. We are not here to play the same role from the moment we came to the world till the moment we left the world. There are different roles with different relationships, with different people, individually for ourselves. It is okay to change the role. But the moment that we realize that with the energy of this week, we can all awaken much deeper level, again, of connection with this strength to help us to pass this test eventually that comes for all of us in life in different ways and forms, to be able to create that breakthrough that we do want to create, to reach a place of having what really belongs to us and not just what makes me feel safe. Then you can take the 40 years and shrink them. Make something that's supposed to take by your nature 40 years, shrink them into one moment. And the change can happen instantly. Thank you so much, everyone. So, this is the direction, again, that I recommend each one of you to take the time, again, from tonight, throughout the week, those 3 steps to bring this idea, this wisdom, the energy that is related to this week practically into the journey of your own life. As I mentioned before, regarding that process, is important and beneficial. Again, to find at least one individual that you feel safe to share with him this process, so they can give you a perspective and you can, again, reflect back over their process and you can help each other in this journey.